Female Finance Collective, where we encourage women to have open and honest conversations about all things money. In today's episode, we're continuing our Money Stories series. We're going to talk with Jen Sullivan today. Welcome, Jen.
Hello. I'm so excited.
We're excited to talk to you about money. So let's start with thinking about this question. Did you worry about money when you were growing up?
I think that's such an interesting question. I wonder how other people answer. I'm already thinking about other people before I get my own words out. So I would say we did not have a lot of money growing up, and I was well aware of that. So there was definitely times when I was worried about money, probably also worried on my mom's behalf. Like, oh, my mom's probably worried about how we're going to pay for things, how we're going to buy groceries. Like, there were also certain chunks of time where money was tighter than others. And I remember one time her saying, I cannot buy milk this week. And I was like, okay. But that wasn't always. And so I think that the real answer is sometimes I really worried about money and other times I didn't. I don't think that it was like I was constantly stressing and worrying and overwhelmed by money at all, but it was definitely something that we were aware of, something that we knew there wasn't just like money for all the things that we wanted. My mom did an amazing job of figuring out ways that we could have fun and ways that we could do things and still be conscious of a budget and of not overspending. Also, I would say, so we started working really young. I know that sounds terrible, but my mom worked for a doctor's office. And so they would pay me to come in old school style and photocopy patient charts. So they would be like, this patient needs to have a second opinion or their insurance needs all this information. Can you copy this? And I would just stand there at the copy machine and copy things for people. So I was working from a pretty young age doing tasks like that. So I think that helped with my money situation a little bit because I always had a little bit of spending money that didn't necessarily come from my mom, but came from working. And that continued. I worked all the way till forever. So I think I was 10 or something when I started doing stuff like little odd jobs. So to answer the question, I feel like I'm talking around it. Yes, there was absolutely times when I was really worried about money, but it wasn't something that was all consuming all the time. But we were always very aware and conscious of the fact that there wasn't a ton of money. I think that makes sense how I'm explaining that.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I can relate to the working part. I've had a job since I was 10. I can just remember babysitting brand new babies, thinking now as an adult, I'm like, who left me with their baby? I was so young. I didn't know anything. So it's definitely interesting when you do those odd jobs and you start working at a really, really young age. What do you think about money now? Do you worry about it now? Is it any different than when you were a child?
Oh, so that's an interesting thing to parallel because now I'd say we're much more financially comfortable than we were when I was a kid. But I definitely still do worry about money. And maybe worry's not the best word now. Maybe I'm more aware and I'm more thoughtful about things. We recently there was a lot that went on, and the family income has gone down twice in the last about year and a half. And so that has probably changed my thinking about money as well, because before, I wouldn't say we worried about money, but we were really conscious of it. Like, wait, what's going on? Should we be buying this? There was those kinds of questions we were asking ourselves. But in the last year or so, there's been a shift because we did have to change some habits. It's like you have to start thinking about things just a little bit more, right? And being a little bit more conscious. And so I think that has translated into worry for me on a low level of worry. Is there a scale for worrying?
There is, yeah.
Where I just worry that we will fall back into the habit of spending like we did before, when we really need to be thinking about the money that we have now and how we want that money to last. How do we want to take the money we have now and think about the future, think about retirement, think about, we've thought about travel in a different way. Instead of going on big vacations, we've been going on like small little weekend trips or few day trips. Like we've tried to make it so that we don't have to worry, I guess, by making some changes and talking about it more. We didn't used to talk about money as much as we are talking about it now. And I think that has probably helped eliminate some of the worry that we probably both were holding on to. I was like, we got to get back to our, like, it sounds funny maybe to some people, but we have like a monthly money meeting. So at the beginning of each month, we look back at our spending from the month before. We look back at incomes, any big spends we have coming up that we need to be thoughtful about. And so that does help alleviate the worry, but definitely it's not just gone. I'm not just like, oh, well, things are different now. I'm a grown up. I don't have to worry. I don't think that's the case. And I think it can ebb and flow as adults too, right? With different experiences we have going on.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that little bit of money worry. I'm a worrier, I think, in general, but like you said, having conversations with your spouse and family is huge. Like, because I've really been the one in my family that runs the money. And then that makes me worry even more because my husband's the one doing the grocery shopping, for example. And it's like, if we never converse, how are we going to make sure that, we're aligned? And then I realize, like, not only are we more aligned and he can understand the goals better, but also I worry less because I've had that conversation with him. And my big thing right now too is like making sure I have all the passwords and all of like our money like in a spreadsheet, like where all the money is, right? Because at this point we have different, like, we've had different employers, we have different pension plans, we have like all of this stuff. And I was like, if something happens to me, I'm going to leave him with a terrible mess of not knowing where anything is. And he's not worried about it, but I'm worried about it. But I think a certain amount of money worry is good too, because it helps you take action, right? It helps you do something about it. But obviously that scale is important. You don't want to be like just worried and not doing anything or worrying too much, right? So how do you prioritize your spending decisions? Because so much of this is about spending as well.
So our priorities change, I've noticed. So right now, our priority is a balance. We're prioritizing, like, we want to still have fun. We want to still enjoy our life, even though we have less money coming in right now. But we also want to think about the future. So we've actually made some compromises with ourselves. Like, we had goal retirement ages, and now we're like, we might have to put that out a couple years, and that would be worth it to us to work a couple more years and enjoy now a little more and put away a little less for the next couple years. So we have had to really think about our priorities in the moment. I never thought that they would change the way, like, as much as they do. I kind of thought we would always be like, we really love travel, we really love like food and wine, and we also want to retire early. So I thought that's like where our money's gonna go, right? These buckets. And now we're like, okay, let's hold it back. Yes, we really like going out, like that's fun for us, but also like I love to cook and that's less expensive. So let's prioritize like cooking at home and trying new things. And that has been able to pull back part of that budget, right? We also really like to travel, but those big trips are expensive. As we all know travel, you can go camping or you can go 5-star all over the world. So finding something in the middle for that has helped us with like our prioritizing so that we can still do the things we enjoy, but we're prioritizing not overspending, I guess, is how I would say it now. We're not prioritizing our spending per se, but not overspending so that we can keep doing the things we love, but in a more balanced way. And then keeping in mind our future and how much we want to put away, and we don't want to stop saving, and we don't want to stop focusing on where we want to be and that retirement piece and the things we want to do when we want to keep doing the things we love now when we're retired, right? Like even more so, I think, because you have more time to do them. So kind of finding that balance of prioritizing and like changing. I feel like I'm saying this in a very weird way, but like changing our priorities as we go so that we can keep enjoying everything, but keep focusing on what's important.
I think that makes perfect sense. Like we
Okay.
have these different seasons in our life where, I've had times where I love clothing shopping and, for a couple of months, that's what I'm really into. And then I have other times, we used to eat out a lot as well. And we've really shifted to making meals at home. And it is a big, big savings. Like we can still have really nice food and try different meal ideas, but the savings, like most of us spend a huge portion of our budget on food. So if you can experiment with making stuff at home as a couple, it's awesome. So when it comes to saving money, like you shared the balance around spending, when it comes to saving money, what motivates you to save?
So I'm thinking about this, two ways just came to mind. So what motivates me to save on like a day-to-day basis, like instead of going out, eating in, or instead of buying something I don't really want or need, choosing not to buy it. So saving on the day-to-day, I just really try to keep focused on my long-term goals or the things I love the most. So I ask myself all the time, I try to be a mindful spender so that I can save on the day-to-day things. Is this something I really, really want? Is this something I really need? Or is this something that like in a few weeks, I won't even remember that I wanted to buy it? So I save that way, even at the grocery store. Sometimes I'll see like an interesting sauce or a condiment or something like whatever. And I'm like, oh, I really want to try this. And I'm like, that is $9. Like, you don't need that. Like, you could probably make it yourself with less ingredients. And then I like, so just kind of being mindful when I'm shopping or spending. That's one way that I save like on a daily basis. And then long-term savings, what motivates me is the things that we have really tried to focus on what is most important to us. So most important to us is travel, family, and the future. We have lived away from our family our whole time of being married, and so we live states away. And so it's a priority for us to have money so that we can see our family and our friends whenever it makes sense, right? As often as possible. And so that motivates us to save money, to direct it towards travel, because those people, we value them, and focusing on our values helps us save. And then also that travel just is what brings me joy. Those life experiences are what I love so much, even if it's just somewhere like 2 hours away that we can go in the car. And like this weekend, we're going down we live in Dallas, and we're driving down to Austin for just 2 days. And I'm really excited just to like see a different place, experience something different, walk the sidewalks in another city. Like I enjoy that. So even if it's not like a big trip, that is something that kind of motivates us to save for those things that we really value. And then the third one would be the future. We really want to enjoy our retired life. I think about the people who aren't able to retire, or the people who retire and then they just can't afford to do anything. And that is just not a life that I want. Like my heart breaks for those people. Some people, that's what they want, right? They just want to be like, this is it. I'm very comfortable just hanging out in my house and doing my thing, and this is perfect for me. But I know that there are people who are still working into their 80s because that's what they have to do to make ends meet. And so it's really important to us to save so that we can enjoy our future doing things that we really love.
We have so much in common, the three of us. I think our top three goals are the same.
Pretty much, yeah.
But we're all living it out, in our own ways. And that's pretty cool. So when you do like to spend money and purchase some things, Jen, what brings you the most joy?
We really love art. We have a lot of art at our house. And something that I can look at and just, if we buy a piece that I just love, like I love looking at it. That sounds so funny, but we have things hanging. I have things all over my office. We have things all over our house. And so I love getting a piece that I enjoy looking at and seeing in our house all the time. So art purchases, much joy. I would also say the just right article of clothing. I have spent many years of my life buying cheap, inexpensive, ill-fitting clothes because they were good enough at the time. And you don't have to spend a fortune to get a nice piece of clothing. I also have a really hard time spending a lot of money on clothes. But if I could get the just right piece that felt like it was the just right price, and it feels really nice to wear it and you feel confident, that is a purchase that I also really love. And then I will say one more is plane tickets. Any purchase of a plane ticket brings me joy. I just bought a plane ticket the other day to surprise my nephews. I'm going to go to one of their wrestling matches. They do not know I'm coming. I got a round trip ticket for $120. I don't even know, like, any plane ticket makes me feel joy, but that one was like, I was like, this is so perfect. It was meant to be. When was the last time you round trip flew anywhere for $120? I don't know. Flying from Dallas to Colorado Springs. And so any plane ticket purchase is always joy, because most of the time that means something good is on the other side.
Jen, I had no idea about the art. I wouldn't have guessed that. So that's super cool to find that out. And I relate with the plane tickets. Because I moved to Canada as a child from Finland, I just love to travel. Like, being on a plane, it was very different back then. You got to go and meet the pilot, and there was always like a toy that they gave you. And it was just this experience, and just the sounds of the plane and going somewhere different. I can't even explain how happy it makes me. So that's definitely probably a big one for a lot of people. Do you have any financial resources or tools that you have found helpful when it comes to managing or navigating your finances?
Tool number one is the internet. When I was younger, and I've shared a little bit about my story before of accumulating debt and then being afraid to ask for help and not knowing what I was doing and not knowing what things meant or how they worked, I would have loved to have the type of internet we have now where I could just look up things, right? I could watch someone on Instagram teach me how to make a budget or give me advice. Now, listen, the internet also has a lot of misinformation, so we have to be smart and discerning when we're looking at things and think about our sources and all of that. But there's a website called NerdWallet, and I am such a weirdo about that website. I just love it because they explain financial things in a way that is very easy to understand. And even now, sometimes I hear financial terms and I'm like, I've heard that, but I could not tell someone what it meant, or I've never heard that before. And I just type up NerdWallet and I'm like, what is this? And usually there's an article or an explanation that is like written for, that thing where people say, explain it to me like I'm 5. I feel like they do that really beautifully without being condescending. They're like, how do we just very simply explain this so people can walk away understanding? So NerdWallet is like my favorite. And then I think that there's just so many, like, I'm just sticking with the internet, podcasts and websites and people sharing their stories and sharing tips. You can buy stocks now. Like, I have websites open on my computer all the time where I have a little chunk of money invested in the stock market where I can like check it all the time and I can decide what I want to buy, sell, and hold. And so there's so many resources now where they make it so easy for us to access our finances and access tips and information. And so I really think that people shouldn't be afraid to look it up, because I do think that there is still, people are nervous, like, I don't know what that means. But we have so many great resources at our fingertip, like literal fingertips. We can just type stuff up. And And I think if people are nervous, like of what to trust, there are signs, right? If people are saying things that seem too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. If places or people are giving you facts and tips that seem believable, that seem reliable, then that's probably a good place to stick. And I also think make sure that you're finding more than one person saying the same thing, right? So I think that that's a good key. And then does it resonate with you? I know that I've seen people online that I like want to follow because I'm like, oh, I'm interested in the tips or advice that they're giving. And then I hear them say something and I'm like, absolutely not. That does not work for me. And I stop following them. So I think trust your gut. If somebody was telling me that the best way to live my life was to never have any fun, never do anything, never stop for a coffee, never go out to lunch, never whatever, that is a hard pass for me. And there are people out there saying that, right? So just trust what I align with and what feels right to me, but that what feels like true and valuable advice. Those are all my favorite, like the internet. Was that a cheat answer to just call the internet my favorite resource?
No, I love that because, I always, like when my kids are doing a school project and they're stumped, I'm like, how are you stumped? You have the internet. Like we used to have to go to the library and borrow books, and every kid in the class would be borrowing the same book. So you were driving around to try to find a different library, and it was so much work. And there is so much great financial information online. I second NerdWallet. I think it's just a great resource to increase your education and just get like a lot of financial stuff in one place. So that's
and for free. There is they have some sort of a membership-y situation or something. I don't pay them any money. I just access the free content. So I don't want people to see something on there that they have to pay for. That you don't have to pay for it to have it still be a great resource.
We'll wrap up today's discussion with Jen. And thank you so much for listening to our Money Stories series. We'd love it if you followed our podcast. We're super friendly. And if you have any questions or if you'd like us to interview you on our podcast, please do reach out. Take care and have a great day.